once you say you're paying cash, then they're not as predisposed to negotiate as deep a discount as they would have been if they were assuming that they had the opportunity to make the money back on the back end.
Here's why the dealer always wants you to finance with them. It's called indirect lending, ladies and gentlemen. Indirect lending. Remember that term. Here's how it works. There's you. You're that good-looking skinny person that just walked into Trusty Dealer and you've agreed to buy a car. And in order for you to finish the transaction, the dealer says, give me your credit application and we'll get that submitted to the bank so we can get you approved for your new car loan. So you give your credit application to the dealer. The dealer, in turn, sends that application to Save More Bank to get you approved for your car loan. So Save More Bank says, you know what? That customer's pretty good. We're going to charge you 5% for the money. So the bank says the money is going to cost 5%, and they sell that money to the dealer for 5%. The dealer, in turn, sells it to you for 7%. They pick up an extra 2 percentage points in interest on that loan. Now let's say, because I need easy math, let's just say that extra 2% creates $3,000 extra interest that you're going to pay during the life of the loan. Why is that important to the bank and to the dealer? Pretty simple here. The normal split between the dealership and the bank on that extra interest that's being paid, the split is 70% to the dealership, 30% to the bank. So what does that mean? Well, if there's $3,000 in extra interest, the dealership's going to collect 70% of that. That's an extra $2,100 profit on that loan that they wouldn't have had if they gave you the 5% interest rate that the bank gave them. And the bank collects 30%. So the bank is going to make an extra $900 on the loan. So the bank makes more money, the dealership makes more money, you pay more money. So how do you counteract that? Instead of you giving the credit application to the dealer, you circumvent the dealer and go directly to the bank or your credit union. And you get a pre-approval prior to going in to buy a car. So if your credit union says 5% or your bank says 5% and the dealer says, great news, we got you 7%, you can turn around to the dealer and go, I got 5% at my own bank. I need you to match or beat that rate in order for me to do financing with you. Now, will the dealership shop around to find a better rate if they can? And perhaps they'll find a rate where they can buy the money for 4% and sell it to you for, say, 4.75% so that you still want to do business with them. Now they're picking up extra profit on 0.75 percentage point. But you always need to circumvent the dealer first and go directly to the bank or credit union so that you don't have to rely on the dealer to place that loan for you. That's indirect lending. That's why dealers always want you to finance through them. It's just extra money for them, extra money for the finance and insurance manager, extra profit for the store. I hope you understand indirect lending. So now that you understand indirect lending better than you did before, what happens, say, if the bank approves the loan at 5% and they say to the dealer, we're going to charge you 5%, and the dealer ultimately agrees to give you 5% on the loan? There's no extra interest that's going to be made, but the bank is going to pay the dealership a flat fee. That flat fee might be $300, might be $250, might be 1% of the amount financed, but the bank is going to reward the dealership for having submitted the application for a loan approval. So the dealer, even if it's a flat, is still going to make money. Oh, and don't forget, like when there's 0% interest or 1.9% interest, well, the dealership's going to collect the flat on that because there's no extra real profit to be made. Just to be 100% clear here, you have to realize that the bank loves the way this situation is unfolding because with this agreement, they're collecting more interest. They would have been perfectly content to just collect the interest based on the 5%. But now they're going to pick up an extra $900 over the life of the loan. They're thrilled to have this type of relationship with dealerships. So the dealership not only ends up making more money for the dealer himself, but they end up making more money for the banks, which is why the dealers oftentimes have these great relationships with banks, and they can get banks to agree to approve people for certain amount of monies that normally the bank wouldn't, because the bank understands that there's going to be a bigger back end for them, a bigger profit for them, and they kind of sort of have a fiduciary responsibility to their stockholders to make as much profit as they can on each loan. The other thing you have to be concerned with is the dealership, in an effort to find you a better interest rate, can what's known in the industry is shotgun your credit application. What that means is they just send your credit application to a boatload of banks, might be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 banks, and they get the banks to compete against each other so that they can find the best possible buy rate, which would allow them to then make some extra money with the sell rate, as we went over before. So don't forget, the dealership can shotgun your credit application, which can ding your credit. So you might want to ask them not to do that. You have to remember the bank is thrilled with this relationship because they're making extra money. And obviously, the dealers love it because they're making the boatload.
Let's be honest, the idea of buying a car is exciting, but actually doing it, not so much. Dealers calling you, asking you when can you come in, bait and switch sales tactics, yuck, and you definitely don't want to spend an hour listening to a guy named Rick check with his manager. That's why CarEdge's AI Negotiator is a game changer. It contacts the dealer and does the haggling for you, and it costs less than a tank of gas. It's powered by real-time market data and trained to spot dealer tactics and pricing patterns, so it knows exactly what to push back on to get you the best deal. Here's how it works. You pick the car you want, CarEdge creates an anonymous email and phone number for you, and then your AI agent reaches out to the dealer on your behalf and handles the entire negotiation. No weird phone calls, no pressure sales tactics, and no, quote, I can knock $200 off the price if you buy it today nonsense. The AI goes back and forth with dealers until it hits the best price. You get the full chat history, full transparency, and zero headaches. It's like sending in a car buying assistant with zero patience for sales tactics. You can try it today back at caredge.com/AI. That's caredge.com/AI.